All right. We're at the 5-minute mark. Shout out to the Patreon supporters. You guys, I love you. I love you so much. You guys are awesome. You ready? Tonight's a big one. Moses Moody, NBA draft. All this stuff. 3, 2, 1. Yo! I hope you guys are doing well. We're doing great with our one show a week. Our one live show a week. We're doing great with that. Again, plans are we're warming up. We're warming up for the full-time shows. I'm really excited about that. I've got it narrowed down to when we're going to start, the day we're going to start. I thought it was going to be late July, early August. We've pushed it back. We're looking at early. We're looking at the week of, and we talked about this in the last show. We talked about the week of Rice game week. We're gonna have our first full-time show that week. I'm pretty excited about that. Also, I know NBA draft is on. It's a Thursday night at 7:30. You guys I didn't tell anybody that this was happening other than our Discord, like half an hour ago or something. So this is obviously for you guys that are coming in after the live show and for you that are here in live chat. I appreciate you. Remember to like, subscribe. If you haven't already, check out all the links provided for you down below. Patreon supporters, this lovely screen. If you want your name stamped to that screen, if you want the stamp, then there's a link down there for you in the description box for the Patreon page. A minimum of $4 a month if you want to join. So, where's the dadgum down? I know it. I know. I apologize, Mr. T-Dub. I'm sitting here frantically trying to get all my information and everything done and all my notes for the show. And I know we had talked about that, but I forgot. Honestly, I forgot. But yeah, upside. And I was even going to add them to the screen here where you guys could see the upside down hook 'em horn. So there's a lot to talk about, and then there's not a lot to it's really two really big things that have happened, especially the one big thing with Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC. Could be as early as 2022 or 2025. We don't know yet. The SEC did formally, I guess, accept their. So this is a weird thing. I guess Oklahoma and Texas reached out to the SEC. The SEC accepted them. They have to formally accept tomorrow. I had thought about just doing the show tomorrow because we do shows on Friday anyways, and we have the NBA draft tonight. By the way, I'm trying my best to keep up with Moses Moody for those of you who are kind of interested in that. So, I know not a lot of big NBA guys, but of course, you're excited about Moses Moody. So, by the way, shout out to who did I get this information from? Was that Zimmerman? I think it was Zimmerman. On Twitter, Razorbacks have had only 6 players drafted in the top 10. 6. You think about the history, even before Nolan, right? With Sutton, and then you fast forward to Nolan, and then Mike Anderson recruited pretty well. Say what you want about Stan Heath and Palfrey. You had talent on those teams, but you just it's surprising to me that they've only had 6. I would have guessed 9 or 10. So of those, you had Sidney Moncrief taken in the 5th round, Joe Klein in the 6th, Ron Brewer in the 7th, Alvin Robertson. You guys remember Alvin Robertson in the 7th, Todd Day in the 8th. And see, for some reason I thought Lee Mayberry was taken in the top 10, and then Joe Johnson, who had a really long career in the NBA. He was also taken in the top 10. Zimmerman goes on to say, that's a high-level list. Moses projected by all to join this list tonight. So I'm going to try my best to keep up with the NBA draft. But you guys know we're going to get going here, and it's when we get onto these topics, especially the hot-button topics of the evening, we're probably going to miss it, but hopefully not. Also, a shout-out to, was this Hog Sports Media that tweeted this? Who said, hats off to Hunter Yurachek. So we'll just start there. Dave Van Horn has been extended. His contract has been extended for another decade to 2031. Van Horn will receive an annual compensation of $1.25 million. I think that puts him, oddly enough, it's in the top 4, but I forget who. I think Tony Vitello at Tennessee actually makes a little bit more. I could be wrong. I don't know what his what the extras are on Tony Vitello's contract at Tennessee. Maybe they're not as good as Dave Van Horn's, because Dave Van Horn, so he gets scheduled increases to his base salary and additional incentive compensation based on the Razorback success on the field. I don't know what those are, and maybe they're better than Vitello's. I don't know. I'm assuming Dave Van Horn and Vitello have the same guy, same agent. I don't know. You know how that works. It seems like it's one or two guys that have kind of a monopoly on these coaches and their contracts. So yeah, congrats to Dave Van Horn. I will be I'll be 48. God willing, if I'm still alive in 10 years, how old? I know it's rude to ask, but Dave Van Horn's in what, his 50s? I mean, my man is going to be coaching for a very long time. What is he, 56? Is that right? 50, late 50s? I mean, that's not unheard of in college baseball. You've got guys that coached well into their 60s. So it's not unheard of. It's just wild to think that he was hired on, what, in 04? 03, 04? Somewhere around there. It was right after I graduated high school. So congrats to him. NBA draft, Moses Moody. Zimmerman says he's projected by everyone in the top 10. That's not true. There are, at least not from what I've seen. I saw one particular place that had him, or someone on Twitter, I believe, had him out of the top 10, and in fact, bouncing back to like the 15th or 16th spot, pulling him out of the lottery, losing a little bit of moolah. So, okay. There's so much here to talk about. Razorback recruiting, football recruiting, just had this little piece. We have a list of players that are going to be here this weekend. Also, there was news out of Bentonville, Chase Nimrod, that 6'3", pretty tall, lengthy receiver out of Bentonville High, got his offer from Michigan today. And I don't know how many Big Ten offers he has now. I know Indiana just recently offered. Michigan threw him an offer. He's the number 6 player in the state of Arkansas so far for the 2022 class, and he's a top 80 receiver. I think on the composite, he's top 60, and then on the maybe it was on the 247. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but on the 247 on their own scale, they have him at like 76th or something. So Arkansas, look. People say, well, they're good. They're good at wide receiver. They are, but they may still take another wide receiver. We know the ideal target for offensive linemen looks to be 4. They're going to take 4 up front on the offensive line. I wouldn't care if they added another. I wouldn't care if they'd go to 5. Linebackers, all I'm concerned about. I'll just say that. And I do agree. I've said this before. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, children. You don't just you look at what you have on roster and you don't go, well, no, we don't need a receiver because we have all this talent. Guys, especially with the transfer portal, especially with grad transfer rules and what have you, especially at the wide receiver position, which is, with Kendall Briles being here, that needs to be a position you stock up on every year. That's the difference between the Alabamas and, I hate to say it, but the Arkansas. That's the difference. Arkansas will never be Alabama in recruiting. I get that, but I'm just simply telling you, you need to strive to mirror what they do in terms of how they restock talent, how they look and accept talent, right? The kind of, they turn away 4 stars and highly rated 3-star players. That's the benefit of being with Alabama, being the Crimson Tide. Arkansas doesn't have that benefit, and this kid is good. I know he's only a 3-star. There's a lot of folks that think he has a really high ceiling, and he's another one of those kids. I think he's actually been bumped up on the top player in the state list, or on the top players in the state list, because I don't remember him always being 6th in the Arkansas. I could be wrong. I thought he was out of the top 10 several months back or coming into 2020. Maybe I'm wrong, but regardless, you're talking about a top 8 player at a position you want to, especially in this offense. You want to restock, and that's a position that you want to be strong at. You want to be strong. Just because you have some guys on your roster now does not mean they're going to be here next year. It does not mean that you're good for the future. I don't agree with that take at all. I don't like that take. Oh, they're fine. They're fine at running back. We'll pass up on this kid. No. We're fine at left tackle. They're 6 deep there. No, you continue to restock them when you have their interest. I think Arkansas kind of got in a little late on him. I'm not really – I had it pulled up here a second ago. I don't know when he was formally offered by Arkansas. It seems like they were kind of dragging their feet on him. All right, the list this weekend, July 31st visit list. I had this sent to me, a screenshot, or well, it was a copy and paste here. Let me pull it up. Caden Henley, who's already obviously committed. Dax Courtney, who's already committed. Jalen White, Jordan Crook, Quincy McAdoo, J.J. Hollingsworth, Andrew Chambly or Chambly. I don't know that I've never actually heard his name spoken out loud. I just haven't. I haven't heard anyone talk about him out loud. I don't know how you pronounce that last name. He'll be here. Nico Davier will be here. Jalen Lewis. Then you dip into the 2023 kids. Caleb James, he's a defensive lineman. Nathan Mitchell, Dalen Jones, another wide receiver. Assad Wasim, a receiver out of West Orange, Winter Garden, Florida. Cedric Baxter Jr., an athlete out of Edgewater, Florida, or Orlando. And then I think I already said Nathan Mitchell. But anyways, he's out of Temple, Texas. So, and also there are a couple of guys that were supposed to come but are not going to make it, and I don't know who they were. I want to say it was James Joyner, and I don't remember the other kid. So it's a pretty big weekend. There's been a lot of talk about possibly gaining a commit this weekend because of these kids being on campus. Jordan Crook, listen, he goes on his official visit back in June. He was committed to Oklahoma State. He comes here. He decommits from Oklahoma State. We've just been waiting. The pin has been pulled on that grenade. We're just waiting for it to pop. We're waiting for this thing. So I wonder if he's one of the kids that have kind of been rumored. I haven't heard names. I've heard there's a possibility they could get a commit this weekend as early as Sunday. Could see a surprise on Saturday. But a lot of these kids that are here are currently committed, but you do have a couple of some pretty good 2023 prospects. But again, I think on this list of the 2022 kids, I think it's only Crook that's not committed, I believe. So obviously that's a big get. Jordan Crook, I'm pretty big on this guy. I realize he's a little undersized. You know, he's got that oversized safety, undersized linebacker frame, 6 foot, but I really like what Crook has to offer. He's pretty stout. He's a strong 225, 230. So it is right now. It looks like very strongly he's going to be a Razorback. There's a total of 6 crystal ball predictions. Almost 93% are favored towards Arkansas with a confidence level right at about 7. Oklahoma State, obviously, at the remaining 7.1%, because technically it's 92.9 for those of you who are going to correct me on that later. John Hawes with the $10 super chat. Have a drink on me, big dog. It's a celebration in the Hawes hold tonight. Congrats to you, man, getting that job out in South Carolina. That's awesome. He'll be 70 when this new contract expires, says Christian Hansen. So he's 60. Okay, I thought he was late 50s. Curious what's going to happen with the allegations about ESPN and Big 12. It sounds like the ESPN fired back. They seem pretty – that was a very bizarre move by the Big 12 to hurl these accusations at ESPN and then for ESPN to bounce back and be like, you're crazy. I don't think anything comes of it. Okay. All right. We're at 20 minutes here. I'm making sure we got everything covered. How are we on Moses Moody before we move on? Oh, fall camp, by the way, for those of you who don't know, starts August 5th. Fall camp starts August 5th. Oh, there's my boy John. Look at him retweeting. I see you, John, with the super chat and the retweet on Twitter. Do me a favor, though. Do me a favor. Make sure you tag me or something so that way, I want to give you guys some recognition here. Evan Mobley drafted to the Cavs. Okay. I'm going to look at – I had NBA draft pulled up here. Hang on just a second. We'll get on to the good stuff, to the juicy stuff. Okay, so they're on, pick number 7 right now. Josh Giddey was number 6 pick. Number 6 pick. So they're on – so if he's top 10 – I would pull it up. But remember, last time we did this, I lost my the channel we got interrupted. Jalen Suggs was drafted 5th overall. Okay, so keep an eye on that. Yeah, if you follow NBA, if you follow them on Twitter, so I'm just going to sit here and refresh this. All right. I was going to make this title clickbaity as hell. I'm not ashamed. Don't hate the player, hate the game, damn it. All right? That's just the way it works. It's the way the algorithm works. That's the way people click things these days. You got to make everything clickbait. You guys know I don't typically do that. I really thought about making this clickbait as hell because it was going to be like a change my mind. So I was on Mark Rogers, voice of college football, voice of college football, Mark Rogers TV. Been on his show, 5-6 times. I like Mark a lot. Mark produces a lot of content. I realize he doesn't produce a ton of Arkansas stuff. He waits for me, and I always have to reschedule because just crazy stuff going on. But yeah. So if any of you watched that, now that video is done really well for Mark. It is I think it's right at or north of 20,000 total views, which congratulations to him. Unbelievable. Right now it's like his second highest viewed video of the last, I think, couple of weeks or something. So that's awesome for him. Glad I could be a part of it. I said there on that show, sorry, the walls are thin. If you guys are hearing the sneezing from the next door, you guys know it's just the life of doing this stuff at home. I said there, this is not good for Arkansas. Big 12 in Texas or Texas and Oklahoma. It's funny. You think Big 12, you think Oklahoma, you think Big 12, vice versa. So I've moved over into the category of this could end up being really good for Arkansas. It really could. Now, I still think you look at guys like Jalen Catalon, who was recruited by Texas, pushed pretty hard there. If I remember right, the end of his recruiting, they pushed for him pretty hard. Katron Jackson was very much a Texas target. I wonder if you don't get those two guys if Texas is in the SEC. I wonder, you look at Raheem Sanders, you look at AJ Green, you can go further back. We can go all the way back to Felix Jones if you want to, out of Tulsa. Name any top target you've picked up out of Oklahoma and Texas. Does those two schools, or would those two schools, had they been in the SEC, would it have had an impact on Arkansas's ability to recruit them? Don't forget, conference alignment is a big deal. It's a big reason why A&M joined the conference, and look what happened. Look what happened when A&M joined this damn conference. Arkansas's yet to beat them, and they recruit at an insanely high level. I do wonder, would you have grabbed those players? Again, like I said, these guys I mentioned, they were either targeted pretty heavily by Oklahoma or by Texas. Now, AJ Green wanted to play on offense. Oklahoma recruited him, I believe, to play defensive back. He didn't want to play defensive back. Sam Pittman and his staff said, hey, come to Arkansas. We'll put you on offense. And I think that is the reason why he came here. I'm sure conference had something to do with it, or what conference you play in had something to do with it. I mean, ask yourself this. If Arkansas was in the Sun Belt, what kind of impact would that have on recruiting? So, of course, conferences matter. Being P5 absolutely matters, but the SEC, and I'm not talking about dollars and cents. I'm getting these Big Ten fans on Mark Rogers on his comment section talking about how, the Big Ten is superior to the SEC because of dollars and cents. No, let's talk about the on-the-field product, right? So would that have had an impact? I think it would have. I think he would have missed out on some of these guys. I realized Catalan I think he had an injury his senior year. I think it actually came from baseball. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Whatever. He had an injury, and maybe that had some impact on how highly these other schools recruited him. But I'm going to tell you right now, he was still heavily recruited by schools in the Big 12. Do you think if schools like Texas Tech and Baylor were in the SEC that would give them an advantage over the rest of the state outside of A&M? Of course it would have. So I do think there's still that is going to be a possibility. Where I'm starting to look at this, and Otis Kirk had an article, and I'd already kind of been thinking about this before I read Otis's article, but it does a really good job. I don't have the link. I apologize. I don't have it up in front of me. The Big 12 is done. I mean, that's probably the most obvious thing anybody could say right now. The Big 12 is good luck. Good luck. I mean, Saturday Down South just had an article today that, and I, again, did not read the whole thing. Remaining Big 12 programs lacking options. Pac-12 reportedly not eager to poach what's left of the league. All of a sudden, the Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State, all of a sudden they're just kind of left out to the wind, right? They're like leaves into the wind. Being in a Power 5 conference matters. Exposure matters to these kids. They understand that. Their families understand that. Pac-12 is not a good option for them either, especially, like Oklahoma State. That's not a good option for them. But at the same time, there's also rumors the Big Ten could come in and swoop some guys up. You think about Iowa State, right? I mean, you already had Colorado and Nebraska leave the Big 12. We've seen this coming for a while, by the way, with the Big 12. It already happened once before. We knew it was just a matter of time before it just completely fizzled. Texas and Oklahoma, when you're relying on just two schools on the exposure that conference gets, because let's just be honest, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Baylor, they're afterthoughts compared to those schools, right? It's just the truth. And I know someone's going to come in, a Big 12 fan or an Oklahoma State fan, someone's going to come in and go, well, so is Arkansas. No, they're really not, because they play in the better conference. When you're in this conference, you're going to get automatic exposure, really good exposure. Now, the TV contracts, the payouts are a little bit, they're not that far apart. I think SEC schools were gaining about an average of $6 million more per school. So when you really look at that, right, when you really zoom out, or zoom in rather, and look at that is actually a pretty big deal. You're talking about nearly 7-8 million per school, so it is somewhat significant. But you get what I'm saying. The exposure matters. These schools are. How does that affect them in recruiting? Holy crap! This is going to hurt them big time. It's going to hurt Texas A&M. I don't think big time. It's still going to hurt them. I think it's going to have a pretty big effect. So when you look at these things, you start to well, now wait a minute. Wait. If we do away with the Texas A&M game being played at the house that Jones built, if you finally play that as a home and home, which I think is on the table, I think the contract expires in 2023, I think, maybe 24, 23. If that changes, you're playing a home-and-home series with A&M, possibly, depending on how they break the conferences up. I feel like Alabama and Auburn are going to wind up in the East if they do a split down the middle conference realignment. If they do these pods like they're talking about, one way or another, what's on the table is more exposure in the state of Texas. You guys know my philosophy. Recruit where you play where you recruit. Especially when right now your football program is not a household name. The Razorbacks, they were under Houston Nutt. They had a flash in the pan moment under Bielema, where the first couple of recruiting classes, it was, I think, pretty easy for Bielema to lure some pretty good talent. You look at Alex Collins, Denver Kirkland. You could name a whole bunch. Frank Ragnow, despite being a 3-star, was getting a lot of attention for obvious reasons. The list goes on and on, but all of a sudden, you're not like A&M is getting taken down a notch. Now I've seen pods that have Arkansas in the same, whatever you want to call it, the North Division of the SEC with Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mizzou, and who was the other? Was it Tennessee? Regardless, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening because of the lack of parity, the lack of schools that matter in that division. I hate to say it, but that's just the truth. Missouri in the scale, when you're talking about the SEC, we're not talking about overall, we're talking about the SEC. None of those teams I mentioned matter. They just don't. Arkansas doesn't matter right now. Hopefully they climb out of that. So I've seen another pod that has Arkansas in the same division with Texas, Oklahoma, and I want to say Missouri, I think LSU. I don't remember. There's so many possibilities, right? First, this has to happen, which it is going to happen. Oklahoma and Texas will accept on Friday, I'm sure. I mean, they're not going to go through all this trouble and then be like, you know what? We're going to reconsider. So this could work out in Arkansas's favor one way or another. You're going to have more exposure in the state of not just Texas, but Oklahoma also. You're going to be playing in Norman more than likely. I see that as a strong possibility for a couple of reasons. The biggest one being the Arkansas-Texas old school rivalry. What can you do with that? Here's something else we haven't talked about. What about the Mizzou-Arkansas end-of-the-year game? Does that get scrubbed? And are we talking about Arkansas and Texas? Do they get that week? My guess is no. They might reschedule that for the Red River Shootout. Maybe that's the week they want to do it. Maybe they want the Red River Shootout earlier in the year. But do they dissolve the Mizzou-Arkansas battle line rivalry, which, good God, I hope they do. Because it's such a conference-manufactured rivalry. I'm sorry. I know there was once upon a time ago where I said we need to acknowledge the rivalry because clearly Mizzou is. No, I'm over that. No, I've changed my mind completely. I'll admit it. I hate playing them. It's not a matter of them with their win streak. It's just it's manufactured and it feels forced. And that's definitely been added to over the last several years, especially with both schools being just not relevant. There's just it's organic. That's how you start a rivalry. This is clearly forced. So what about that game, Texas and Arkansas? Do they give it a trophy like the Cotton Bowl Classic or, I don't know, I don't know. What do they do with it? Do they give it some kind of a trophy? Do they give it some form of recognition and they get rid of this stupid rivalry with Mizzou? I hope look, either way, this could end up benefiting Arkansas if they do the pods or they don't do the pods. I do think the pod, depending on where they put you and depending on who they put in that division, it wouldn't shock me at all to see them put us in with A&M, with LSU, or swap one of those out for both Texas and Oklahoma. Texas and Oklahoma will definitely be in the same pod without a doubt. So then you throw in A&M and then probably Arkansas. Who knows? There's so many possibilities with this. It's insane. Let me check on chat here really quick. Just got here, so I don't know if you covered it yet, Ty, but what's your opinion on the SEC, on if the SEC is done adding teams or not? So let me answer that. There was an article written up by Fansided, by Scarlet in Game. I guess that's the Ohio State Fansided page. Rumor that Ohio State and Michigan were contacted about joining the SEC. Now, the guy that wrote this, Ryan Stano, says, normally I don't engage with these types of rumors, but with everything that has been flying around these last few days, everything needs to be considered. Would it be good for Ohio State to leave the Big Ten? So this was backed up by Jack McGuire and Graham Kofi. Graham Kofi is a Georgia football writer analyst for Dog Sports, and I guess he hosts a video show, and he's a part of SB Nation. He had tweeted that the SEC has been in serious contact with Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, and Florida State. Not clear if this will materialize, but they have their eyes on a true 20-team mega conference. OU and Texas is just the start. Then Graham Kofi, who says on Twitter, text from an SEC source with knowledge of the inner workings in the league office, quote, a couple more dominoes fall and we're in a situation where the SEC could become its own division. More teams have reached out than what's being reported. 20 to 24 within the realm of possibility. And then Ross Bjork on SiriusXM this morning. I don't know what the landscape of the SEC is going to ultimately look like, whether that's 16, 18, 20 or 24. I think they do. I feel like the direction that they're headed in is to separate themselves from the NCAA. Now, maybe that sounds a little like this is some form of a conspiracy. This would be the biggest thing to happen ever in the history of college athletics, to separate from the NCAA. We know the NCAA holds very little power. They do not uphold their own decisions in terms of like punishment when they catch teams cheating. You look at what happened with Penn State, and they virtually did nothing. They did something, and then they took it back. Like, there's only a couple of cases, Miami, SMU back in the 80s with the Pony Express, Ole Miss in more recent history, but did that do anything at all to Ole Miss? Of course not. And I do believe innocent until proven guilty, but is Ole Miss still doing things? But it's Lane Kiffin. The guy should be able to recruit pretty well with his name and the fact that Ole Miss being in the SEC, et cetera, et cetera. I do think they will add. Now, here's the thing about their contract. Here's well, I had it here. Hang on just a second. Here's the deal with Oklahoma and Texas, because timing is everything here. This is from ESPN. This was written by, it just says ESPN staff. That's interesting. I didn't catch that earlier. The 14 presidents and chancellors voted unanimously on Thursday to extend invitations to Oklahoma and Texas to join the conference. Texas and Oklahoma officially made their first move toward leaving the Big 12 on Monday, when the flagship programs notified the rest of the conference that they do not intend to extend their grant of rights media agreement, which runs through June 30th, 2025. June 30th, 2025. They don't have to wait that long. In fact, they can get going as far as playing within the SEC sooner than later. According to the federal reports, the Big Ten, the 10-team Big 12 distributed. Now we're talking about distribution here. $409 million to its members in the fiscal year of 2020, or about $37 to $40 million per school. That was a slight increase from $38 million distributed in 2018. Drop obviously caused by the pandemic. Meanwhile, the 14-team SEC generated about 768, or right at about 769 million, and distributed nearly 46 million to each school. So obviously the that's going to jump quite a bit. Schools are going to see this. Now, the Big Ten, I believe, they do actually have a bigger payout. I don't know how their contract is looked at. I don't know. I don't know their deal. I don't have it up in front of me, but there's no doubt that if you form a super conference, the payout you're going to have more schools. There's going to be more, to distribute evenly. There's going to be more schools, right? But when you add the value of Ohio State, Michigan, if let's say they expand to even out to Penn State. People are caught up on the geographics of this, by the way. Let's not forget, West Virginia is in the Big 12. All right, Notre Dame is playing ACC schools, so throw that crap out of the window. They may even leave. I don't know if they change their name. Maybe they're no longer the Southeastern Conference. But I do think eventually this is going to happen. I think eventually it may not happen. It may not happen by the time Dave Van Horn's contract is expired. I don't know, but I do think this is a major step in that direction. Now, and I had it here, and of course I can't find it, but the Oklahoma and Texas can leave. They can leave sooner. They can actually leave. I can't believe I had it highlighted and I don't know where it went. I believe it was 2022 is the earliest that they can leave. Hang on a second. 75. What we know so far. Here it is. Here we go. Okay, so the two most likely scenarios. Here we go. Texas and OU either stick around through June 2025, which means they won't have to pay a cent, or they could bolt to the SEC as early as 2022 and each pay a penalty of somewhere between $75 and $80 million. Now, keep in mind, they may not have to pay that if the Big 12 dissolves. and which is likely to happen. Now, obviously, the Big 12 is going to do everything they can. We've read rumors that they could ask teams from, what was it, Conference USA or something, piece together what they can. I saw one map that even had them including Maryland. I can't figure out what the hell's going on with Maryland. Figure out where you belong. But we know where you – I don't understand the idea of them playing in the Big 12. And, yeah, it is a geographical hang-up that I have. But that, again, that's out the window, right? Like, who cares now? We could have Maryland in the freaking Pac-12. I mean, what the hell would that look like? Imagine that travel, right? I feel for the West Virginia folks. I feel for them. You know, what is going to happen? I think Iowa State does end up. I think Big Ten does end up with a couple of schools. Iowa State, in my opinion, is the third best program in the Big 12 in terms of not just what they've done on the field, but I think their total revenue. I think they're going to turn some eyeballs. Iowa State is in a really good position for a little while in terms of just what they look like. Right, they're a household name in the Big 12. We know they can compete. So if the Big 12 dissolves before the 2025, which I imagine unless the Big 12, I don't know, unless they can take from the pack, and I can't see that happening. I can't see maybe, the Arizona schools, maybe they can dip into, maybe they can bring back Colorado and try to lure back Nebraska, but that's not going to be enough. You need big market schools. You need schools that generate revenue and have a certain power to their name. I'm sorry, TCU, Oklahoma State, Baylor, they don't. They do in Texas and Oklahoma, no doubt about that. Okay, but the majority of those eyeballs in that region are set on those two schools, Texas and Oklahoma, which is why we're in the situation that we're in. A lot of different scenarios could play out. It's absolutely crazy, but it's good stuff. SEC is the new FBS, this is Dylan Bray. This chair. I'm not supposed to bitch about it. This chair. All right. Okay. Big Ten will want the Kansas basketball. And that's the other thing, too. Although basketball until March really doesn't have the kind of, the TV power that college football has, it is something to think about. I do think what ends up happening is the Big 12 gets, or the Big 12, the Pig 12, see what I did there? The Big 12 gets picked apart. I don't know what happens, especially with like Oklahoma State. Small market, fan base is not exactly big. They're in a state like Oklahoma. I don't even know their population. I realize they have, Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Norman is, it's sizable. I realize they have, those cities, and those cities matter, but the market is relatively small. I'm still shocked they got an NBA team. I'm still shocked by that. I have no idea why the hell any NBA school would want anything to do with being in Oklahoma, but they're there. I don't know how they do. It won't shock me at all if when their time comes, if they don't end up leaving Oklahoma City. But you think about those smaller schools, right, that have always kind of been the little brother in their conferences, whether it was the Southwest Conference, the Big 8, or the Big 12. What happens? So, circling back to how this affects Arkansas. Without a doubt, this could benefit Arkansas in a pretty big way. So if they get picked apart, if the Big 12 is dissolved, you've got these schools, floating about. Arkansas is going to move into those territories, especially Dallas-Fort Worth area, Houston. Maybe they'll have a better footing in Tulsa than what they have, and Tulsa produces some pretty good talent. Tulsa does what Little Rock used to do. They produce a lot of talent. So I think that this ends up benefiting Arkansas in those regards. We still don't know about scheduling, right? We don't know. We don't know how they're going to do it. We're not going to know. I don't think we know anything until – it wouldn't surprise me if we don't know anything until the beginning of 2022 or when the first quarter of the year starts, right, when these schools start looking at their numbers and preparing their taxes and doing what they need to do that's necessary to run a major collegiate football program. We may not know anything until the first quarter of next year. Maybe they'll let us know in December. I don't know. I have a feeling – they're going to drag their feet on that a little bit because They want to see how the rest of this plays out with these other schools. I do think maybe the SEC does pluck some of these Big 12 schools. Maybe they do. But you've got the Pac-12 turning down, they're not picking the rest of the parts up. Did this move single-handedly put those schools out of the P5 and make them non-relevant? Like, that's something I was thinking about when I was filling out my notes for this show. Like, what the hell is going to happen to those schools if they don't get picked up by Power 5? Is the Big Ten really going to bring in Texas Tech, Oklahoma State? I just have a hard time seeing that. I have a real hard time seeing that. Again, when you've got the Pac, who doesn't generate the kind of revenue, they play on their own damn schedule when it comes to the timing of their games. You've got the Pac turning these guys down, and now you've got the Big Ten. Again, I think they'll pick apart some schools, but then there's still three or four other schools in the Big 12 that they're just left floating about. I don't know. Hogs will move on. Oklahoma State recruits. Yeah. And if you pay attention to Oklahoma State recruiting, they're typically like a top. I looked last year. I want to say I looked at their year by year, and I want to say they're like a top 45. They're usually behind Arkansas, which is crazy because of the success. Oklahoma State has had some success, but that tells you there's not a lot of hype around Oklahoma State despite what they do on the field. Right? Even at Texas Tech when they were decent, I don't ask me the last time when that was. They don't generate the same kind of publicity. They just don't, because they're under the Texas, where Texas was bigger than the conference. That's the biggest problem, and that's why the Big 12's in the situation that it's in. Where do you think Moses will go? So let's check. Has he not been drafted yet? That puts him out of the top 10 if he's not been drafted. Okay. I'm scrolling down here. Uh-oh. He's out of the top 10. Oh boy. Yeah, like I said, I'd seen several lists that did not have him in the top, even the top 15. So right now they just dropped Zaire Williams out of Stanford, a small forward out of Stanford. He got picked in the 10th pick. Davion Mitchell was the 9th pick out of Baylor. Okay, so he's not in the top 10. He is falling back. Let's see. Hang on just a second. That's unfortunate. I hope we'll see what happens here. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep an eye on him. You guys do the same in chat for me too. My phone is blown up though. Okay. Where were we? The leftover Big 12 school. So that's what impacts Arkansas's recruiting right there. When you're talking about the expansion, that piece plays the part. That's a big part. Kids don't want to play for schools that are irrelevant, that don't play in notable conferences. That's why you have the Power 5 and then the rest of the field, the non-P5s. It's why you have what you have in the NCAA in the current landscape. Low key want the Grizzlies to draft him. Yeah. Well, good luck to him. I hope he gets taken soon here. Hang on. Do we have their 11th pick in? Is it in? It's not Moses Moody. Man. Okay. All right. We're on to the 12th pick. Also, what also benefits the Razorbacks? Like I said, the other big part of it is playing in the state of Texas more. Playing in the state of Oklahoma. You're now there. You're again, my philosophy is play where you recruit where you play. That doesn't mean you only do that. That doesn't mean you only stick to those areas. Arkansas's had success in Georgia, in Florida. They've had success southeast of here. They've had success in Texas where they rarely play, right? 07 Texas Tech, as good as I remember that Texas game. I don't know where Moody goes, Joshua. I don't know. I don't know. He's not been picked yet. The 12th pick the 11th pick was submitted, and we don't have to pick number 12. Joe with the $5 super chat. Do you think Texas will go to the West and Oklahoma to the East? No, I think they keep both of them in the West. Again, simply because of, look how they have it split now, right? I think a valid question would be, what do they do with, is there a realignment we don't see coming, right? Do they split up the Mississippi schools? I have a hard time seeing that because of their history in the SEC and the Egg Bowl and what have you. But the conference has done some slightly head scratching things. Who knows what they do if they do the pod selection? Where do you put Ole Miss and Mississippi State? In the pods, right? Do you put them in with LSU and who else is in that? Maybe you push over and put them in A&M somehow, and you kind of go the opposite direction with Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas. Do you maybe then put Mizzou in that as well? So then you have Mizzou, Arkansas, and I think that's likely. Mizzou, Arkansas, Texas, and Oklahoma. Okay, another recruiting advantage too, and this was a video that I was going to have done that I was going to have edited for you guys. Was about the NIL, and I mentioned this with Mark Rogers. You guys need to go watch that. I think it was a good video. At the end, I'm not gonna lie. You guys know me. I'm blunt and I'm honest. I'm gonna tell it like it is. I called Arkansas a bottom feeder in the SEC because that's what they are in football. They're not that, and definitely not that in baseball. They're not that in basketball. We know they're the mecca for track and kind of the sports that no one really, I hate to say it, no one really pays any attention to. But in football, they are, they live in the basement. Not always going to be the case. Hasn't always been the case. And I'm surprised I didn't catch more heat, actually, in the comment section from Hog fans on that. But the NIL, if you pay attention to that, if you make it to the end of that, I talk about the NIL. The NIL is going to be the other deciding factor. That's the other new thing that happened in this offseason that could give Arkansas maybe an advantage. It's possible. I realize when you talk about like what Texas can do, what A&M can do with the NIL, Oklahoma, who's a household name, they're a name brand, they're a playoff contender. Sure, they're going to continue to do great things. For those of you who have never been to Northwest Arkansas, for those of you who've not been to Bentonville, who've not been to Fayetteville, it's not Walmart. Remember, I'm pretty sure the rules state they cannot use Walmart as a partner in their NIL deals or whatever. What makes Walmart great besides their really low cost and their have you guys, do you ever buy do you go to their deli and get their potato wedges are like on point. I'm just telling you, their potato wedges are incredible. The people that sell to Walmart the Walmart sells their goods and they get a piece, whatever. When you walk around Walmart, for anyone who's ever worked retail, every end cap is, that's the end of an aisle that has products on the end of the aisle. Where do you think that's coming from? Vendors. They're everywhere. Yeah, Fayetteville's beautiful, blah, blah, blah. It's voted one of the best cities to live in. Okay, Bentonville's Walmart headquarters. You got Tyson, J.B. Hunt. We overlook George's. But the vendors are everywhere. And you've got Trey Knox with this PetSmart deal. What? I don't think that had anything. I don't know. PetSmart's their own, I don't know how that happened, but good for him. That's awesome. Vendors are everywhere, man. Instant access to these people up here. I think that's going to pay off for them. Not to mention you've got over 500,000 people in Northwest Arkansas, right? And I hate to say this, and I swear to God, I love my state. I love Little Rock. I love the River Valley area. I've been all over the state, the Delta, South. I've been in Pine Bluff. Okay, I've driven through Pine Bluff. Over in Northeast Arkansas, beautiful country. Let's be honest. The rest of Arkansas is hard to sell to a player, but you do sell them. You're selling them on Northwest Arkansas. You're not selling them just on Fayetteville. You're not selling them just on campus. You're selling them, hey, our NIL deal, it's pretty awesome. Our program here, we're way out in front of it. And, oh, by the way, we got a vendor right down the road that, is a huge player with Walmart. Yeah, we can get you in on maybe get you in on some talks with these guys. Oh yeah, Johnson & Johnson's just down the road here. Like, that's a huge advantage for Northwest Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas, without a doubt, it's the best part of the state. I hate to say that. I know people are going to get all triggered by that, but it is the truth. Northwest Arkansas, not all of it. We still have West Fork. We still have Lincoln, Arkansas. Oh, I'm probably pissing some people off. We still have parts that are not great. You do have South Fayetteville that once upon a time ago was not the most desirable area, a part of this town that I'm from, actually. But Northwest Arkansas is what you're selling these recruits on with. And then when you talk about being out in front with the NIL deal and all this stuff, on top of all the other things that come with playing in the state of Texas, that much more exposure, this stuff matters. It may not really matter to some of you guys in here. It matters. I'll tell you, it matters. And that's a huge sell, and that's a really big advantage that, I don't know what Norman, Oklahoma has to offer. What the school has to offer is phenomenal. There's no doubt. Arkansas is in their shadow in football, without a doubt. A lot of teams are in their shadow. They're great at football. Do they have the same opportunities? Because, again, you're selling them on Norman and the history of Oklahoma. Meanwhile, you're selling them all of Northwest Arkansas. You're selling them on what the area has to offer, not to mention the amount of ex-players that come back. They find jobs all over the place. I'll tell you, as someone who worked at Sam's Club Corporate back in 2014, the opportunities and the players that are there's a lot of them. And that's just Sam's Club. That was a much smaller side of things. Walmart, so just saying, a lot of advantages there. Don't forget Amazon is coming to Springdale. Yeah, they're supposed to build their drone center, right? Or it's going to be a distribution center, but it's supposed to be a drone. I think it's something about the drones. I don't know. I got to see Walmart. So if you go to the Walmart, for anyone who goes to Pea Ridge, they recently had that police officer that was killed, a couple months ago. Really tight-knit area. Pea Ridge is honestly a beautiful area. I've got friends that live out there. I know, again, I've got a friend out there. It's a gorgeous area. I got to see their Walmart. They got a Walmart over there that's got a drone. I think it's the only drone hub in their entire, in all of Walmart in Pea Ridge, Arkansas. And I took a picture of it, but it was such a bad picture that I didn't forward it to our Discord. But pretty cool. But they're going to do that. They're going to do, it's going to be like a distribution place, I guess. Or they're just using it to test their drones. Pretty neat to see. Northwest Arkansas is the gem of Arkansas. It is. I sound, well, Ty, yeah, you grew up in Fayetteville. It's just the truth. I mean, if you've been here enough. Now, Northeast Arkansas, Jonesboro, up until you keep going further east, beautiful area, right? Eureka Springs. I've never stayed in Eureka Springs until our wedding anniversary. Gorgeous. Stayed at the oh my gosh, Crescent Moon Hotel. Awesome. I had the time of my life. I think I got a contact high. Don't cancel me, YouTube. I think I got a contact high. There's an older couple outside smoking a doobie. And but it's Eureka. It's almost like a mini Dixon Street, but then the area around it, it's just gorgeous. I love the state. But in terms of the opportunities, where the money is, it's definitely Fayetteville, Bentonville, Rogers, Northwest Arkansas. You got a little bit going on in the River Valley, and then, of course, Little Rock. But Northwest Arkansas, I think it's true. It is the gem of the state. Financially, economically, doesn't mean that, you've got all the best. Well, you do have the Ozarks. Ooh, okay. Officer Apple was his name. That's right. Naming a street memorial after him. Okay. Yeah, I've got friends out there. Officer Apple. That's right. Officer Apple was was the officer that was killed, and really sad. But that community really tight knit up there in Pea Ridge. I need to go to the battlefield there. I've never done that. I've done the one in Prairie Grove, but I want to do the Pea Ridge battlefield. I want to tour it. Okay. Did we cover everything? Again, there was so much to talk about, and we are at an hour. So just kind of the bullet points. This will affect A&M, this expansion, for those of you who've been asking me. this will affect A&M more than anybody in a negative way. They're throwing a hissy fit about it. They're stomping their feet like overgrown children. It's kind of fun to watch, actually. NIL, along with these other Big 12 schools being put in a weak position and possibly out of a Power 5 conference, could be what tips the scales for Arkansas in recruiting the state of Texas. So I'm just kind of going over final thoughts here. And we went over the SEC. See, I had it in my notes. Does the SEC continue to expand? And according to Jack McGuire and Graham Coffey, this could absolutely be the case. And is this a step towards the SEC establishing its own college football league of sports and setting them up to leave the NCAA, to which I say yes and yes. I think it's a matter of time. Some people, and I had this conversation when this rumor first kind of broke a while back, when I think it was when the SEC, I think they contacted Oklahoma about joining. In Oklahoma and Texas, I think they reached out a few years back, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and he said if that was really – he doesn't believe it's going to happen. At least he didn't then. And his claim was that, well, if that's the case, why aren't they going after all the schools and just stealing from the NCAA, just taking whoever they want, and then just go ahead and make their own whatever of college football? Opposite of the NCAA, basically be a competing entity to the NCAA. I don't know why that's the case. I don't know why they haven't. Maybe they're just being picky about what, about what markets they dip into, because you don't want to stretch yourself out too thin and adding a bunch of teams you really don't care about. And if they do expand, the other thing is you need to have enough teams where you can have a playoff. You can't do it with, you could do it with 16, but it's ideal to do it with more, right? In the NFL, it's 32 teams in the NFL. Maybe that is where they're headed. Maybe they're headed towards a super mega conference or whatever they want to call it. And at the light at the end of the tunnel, or the end goal rather, is for them to set up their own division of college football. I don't know. I think that I do think that's the case, but I don't know if their end goal is necessarily to No, I do. I think that is their end goal. I'll just come out and say it. That was a quick hour. Yeah, it was. There's a lot to talk about. How in the world did Primo get picked before Moody? Has Moody still not been drafted yet? He has not. Wow. He has slipped. Yeah, Primo drafted. What? You wonder if Moody's at the end of the season, what kind of an impact that had on Moody. I'm still surprised by that. Primo going before Primo. Joshua Primo being taken before Moody. Wow. They're on pick number, what are they on, 14 now? Yeah, Pacers just picked. Unreal. Unreal. All right. No more NCAA screwing with people is a good thing. It is a good thing. I agree with that. But do you? And the question is, would you expect, if that is the case, let's just call it the SEC, assuming they still go by that. If let's say they do go and move into a 30-plus team league, do you expect them to police themselves better than the way the NCAA did? I would say probably so, because you have a smaller scale. Instead of 130 teams, as far as football is concerned, of course, you got to stretch that out in other sports. But in football, 130-plus teams, it's hard to police. I get that, but I still don't think they were attributing their rules and their regulations appropriately. I don't like you've got the situation with, we know what's going on at LSU. What the hell's happening? And I'm not even just talking about Will Wade. These allegations with what's going on with their football program, and the NCAA has done nothing. Why? And would the SEC, if they were their own working, functioning body, which they are, but they're not because they still ultimately have to report to, at the end of the day, the NCAA, would they police that differently? And you got to remember, if you were to sink, we did see the NCAA put the band hammer on some schools. We did see, when SMU got caught cheating with the Pony Express and all that stuff going on, they hit SMU hard. Hit them so hard they've never really recovered. They hit Miami, and Miami has bounced back and forth, but overall has never been close to what they once were, especially when Jimmy Johnson was there. I don't know. Moses drafted. Okay. Oh, not the Warriors. No. Really? It's not refreshed, so you guys are ahead of me. So he had to have been the 14th pick. You got to be kidding me. That's still not refreshing. All right. So to anybody who's watching this after the fact, after we've been live, I do appreciate you guys. A shout out to everyone in live chat tonight. Moses just went to I know, Alex. I hate the Warriors. I don't like the Warriors. But then again, had he gone to the Lakers, I would have been really pissed. There's no one I hate more in the NBA than the Lakers. And that's before LeBron. That goes back. That goes back. Remember, I'm a Celtics fan. Do not like the Lakers. I love it. Moody working with Steph. It's true. It's true. It's just, oh. Yep. Well, no. Now, hold on. The NBA didn't even tweet that Moody was drafted. There it is. Okay, now there it is. Okay. All right. 14th pick. Moses Moody to the Warriors. There it is. All right. Congrats to him. Yeah. Good for him. That's awesome. All right. Love the Warriors. So many bandwagon fans. They're everywhere around here. I'm not calling you a bandwagon, Alex. So many bandwagon fans, just like the LeBron people. You guys drive me crazy. Oh, I'm a Cleveland Cavalier fan now. Now I'm a Miami Heat fan. Now I'm a Cav fan again. Now I'm a Lakers fan. Pick a city and stick with it, damn it. I was totally wrong and happy I was. Yeah, well, Zimmerman had it said that he was undoubtedly going top 10. He slipped a little bit. He slipped just a little bit. All right. I'm trying to scroll up here really quick, see if I can answer any more questions before we end it. That was a quick hour. That was. There's a lot to cover. Dad is from Mountain Home, Arkansas, says the Hog president in 1991. Okay, Mountain Home. All right. Do you think okay, here we go. Do you think the SEC will place Mizzou physically into the West or stay in the East? That's from I Am Prue. I think what ends up happening, more than likely, you keep Mizzou in the West. And you're going to push Alabama and Auburn over. I don't know. I don't know how they do this, really. I could see them keeping them in the West, or if they do the pod stuff, wouldn't shock me for them to put them in an easy-ass division with, like, Kentucky and Vanderbilt. Because Mizzou comes into the league when the East is garbage. When the SEC East is garbage back in 2012, 2013, all these teams in the SEC East are down. Mizzou comes in and if, they win the East the first 2 years they're within the conference, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, they belong here, I guess. They haven't really done much since. You know what's going to happen. They're gonna get the easiest division and rub that in Razorback fans' faces. That's a made-up rivalry. Maybe trade Moody to the Bucks. Wouldn't that be great? I would be all for that. All right. I hate the freaking Warriors with a passion. All right, guys. Again, appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't already, subscribe. I don't know what we were at as far as view count. My view count's always struggling. It's never updated. So it's always YouTube is always struggling to keep up with those views on my end. But I do appreciate you guys being here. All right. Until next week, I may go live tomorrow if we have any more additional information. Just make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you get notifications. You're supposed to anyways. Check out all the links provided for you down below in the description box. Like the video. Make sure you like. I want you to like that button. Don't do it too many times because then it unlikes and then, so just do it once. Really hard. Just click it. Smash the like button. All right, Woo Pig. Go Hogs. I will see you guys next week. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks to have a firm schedule down for the live show, for the daily live show. But it's coming, and I'm really excited. All right. Hate the Celtics with a passion, even with Bird. Get out of here. Alex, I'm going to put you in timeout, sir. Go Hogs.